After I removed these injectors from the engine, I cleaned them real good with diesel, blew them with compressed air. Then I covered this port with semi-thread, short bolt, and I put hose over here and over here to protect the thread and the nozzle. And I sanded this area because there was some rust in this area. And after that, I clean them again with diesel, blew them with compressed air, and remove this bolt and the two hoses. You need to make sure to protect the injector from any abrasive material, dirt. Don't drop it. Don't hit it with wire brush or sandpaper. You will damage it permanently. After I did that, I put them in this container and I kept spraying them, especially at the tip or at the nozzle, with carburetor cleaner, and I did that for the last 2 days. I cleaned the container, blew them with compressed air, and then I tested them with my homemade bob tester. Some of them did good. They have good battering and good pressure, but some of them they don't, so I'm going to rebuild all of them, and after that I'm going to retest them. I will show you the complete process on how to build one injector. However, it should be similar to the rest of them. Just make sure you do them one at a time so you don't get the parts mixed up. And I show you what to look for inside the injector. You see this flat spot on two sides? Put it on a vise. And this 15 millimeter, I'm using 15 millimeter 6-point socket. Sometimes these brass washers, they compressed and they press on the nozzle. Just keep working it out. They're very dirty inside. Now be careful, these pins will come off and you lose them, so make sure you work in area like this, a flat table, and be careful. This part, what's mostly go bad on your injector, if it wear out, it will have a shoulder and it will start leaking. It won't build the pressure. This one is still good. It's pointy. There is this part. This is a flange. And then you should have a spring and a shim. Sometimes you have more than one shim. This is the order of it. The injector body, then the shim, heavy gauge spring, and this is a flange. One side it has a hole and the other side is solid. The hole need to be toward this part. And then this part, like I said, be careful, it has these pins and they will come off. And then this part, it has holes, and this how the diesel will come off after the pressure build up and force this up against the spring to allow the diesel to come out. Then this part, and then this washer will go between the injector body and the engine head to prevent gas leak. When the engine when the piston get into the compression stroke and the injector inject diesel and the diesel will blow up, so it won't leak from here. I already bought a new washer, so I will replace these. And this is the breakout of the injector, and as you see, even though I've been cleaning them externally, they're still dirty from the inside. Once again, don't use any abrasive material, just to clean them with chemical. Use any brand of carburetor or brake cleaner and a soft rag and just to clean them this way. You don't need to hit anything with sandpaper or any polishing material. And if this is damaged, if you have shoulder on this or if the tip of this one damaged, then you need to replace this as a set. The operation of this is not smooth, so I need to clean the inside and blow it with air real good. Only use diesel and use carburetor or a brake cleaner. Make sure you wear glasses or safety glasses, so if any of this got on your face, won't get on your eyes or in your eyes. Soak them with carburetor cleaner will make the cleaning process at this point easier. And you should be able to see the pattern. I don't know if the camera catch it. Avoid using metal brush. This has a very fine thread, and if you damage the thread, then the injector will be useless. Just use a clean cotton rag. Make sure this surface also clean. And this mess came from one injector. I usually do this kind of work outside for better ventilation. However, it's very windy outside. That's why I want to show you one injector in better environment for the camera. But I'll continue this outside. Once I finish with this injector, I'm going to put this outside for the fume to get in the air. Now everything clean and dry. To assemble it, I'm just going to use a clean and fresh diesel. You really don't have to use anything else because the injector will run on diesel. So when you test it, also test it with diesel only. This way you get the right specification, or the same pressure that the engine will run on is what you tested with. I put the shim first, and then the spring, and then this flange. Once again, the solid side go against the spring. And I will line up this flange surface or the machine surface because it has one flat and one machined. And I will line up this hole with the hole in the injector body. It's work better, a lot smoother. And same thing, there is a hole over here and the two holes on the side. I'm going to line this hole with this hole. I tie it in the vise, and I'm going to use my 1/2 inch drive or torque drive. I set it to 22 foot-pound. And this injector is done and ready to be tested. One of the injectors, when I took it apart, it had 2 shims inside. So make sure when you disassemble your injector, before you blow it with air and all that, make sure the amount of shims that inside it, so you don't accidentally lose one of them. If you blow them with air and it come airborne, then you may not find it. So be careful. Always count the shims, and if there is no damage in your injector, so you could put it back together and it will run fine. I cleaned and tested these injectors 2 days ago. They all underperformed. Their pop and pressure was set around 190 bars. They're supposed to be around 245. That's what the engine specification asks for. And these injectors, they have a label on the side of them. It shows they're supposed to be set at 245 bar right here. Is that small label. So I soaked them in diesel, and I went look online. I thought I may find shim for cheap. The one I find online, they very expensive, and they are the wrong one, even though they advertise them for this specific engine and these specific injectors. The outside diameter of them, it was 7.5 millimeter. The original ones inside these injectors, they exactly 7 millimeters, and there is not a lot of room inside. So I waited till today. I went to a local diesel shop. I took one of these injectors with me, and he looked the part number and he looked on his computer, and he came up with these shims. And I bought 2 sizes from him. The larger one is 0.102 millimeter, and this is the part number for it. The thinner one, 0.051 millimeter, and this is the part number for it. And they were cheap. After I got them here, I took one injector and I tested it. It was popping at exactly 190 bar. I opened it and I added the 3 shims of the thickest one, the 0.102 millimeter, and it was popping at around 275 bar or 280 bar. So I brought it back, opened it, and removed 1 shim, so it has only 2 extra shims, and it started popping at 240 bars. And that's good. I'm going to leave it there. I don't have any combinations of shims to add 5 more bars, so I'm going to leave it alone. But the goal is to set all of them to that pressure, 240 bars. I will open them one at a time, and I will add shim and keep it trying until I get all of them to 240 bars. While I was shopping for shims online, I read a lot of misleading informations regarding this particular engine and these injectors. These injectors, they belong on a Cummins 5.9 liter 12 valve engine, and it's the first generation. These engines, or the 5.9 liter Cummins, they have 2 types of pumps. They have the VE pump, that's what I have, and they have the P pump. They both have different pressure. So your engine or your injectors, they have to be set for the designed pressure for the injectors, because if the injectors they have popping pressure less than what they specified, your engine may start fine, however it doesn't have power. If you increase the popping pressure more than what the injector is designed for, you may have little bit better performance, however you will damage your injectors, you will damage your injector pump. You may also have to change the timing of the pump if you change the popping pressure, and you may also damage your engine. So always stick to the specification of the injectors and shim them till you get to the specified level of popping pressure. The original shim is thick. I'm going to install the new shims first because they weigh thinner. And this is the thickest one. I will install it first and then put the larger shim on top of it. If your injector has different shims, always put the larger one next to the spring, so the spring won't damage it. If you use the thin one, the compression from the spring may flatten it and may damage it because it doesn't have a lot of metal on it. Two new shims. Make sure they set flat inside. And for this particular injectors, the spring should be flush or little bit underneath this surface. If they seated wrong, if they seated like this, you'll know it. You need to be careful with this pin, like I explained earlier, because after you clean them, they may get free, so be careful you don't lose them. I'm blowing with air one more time because, you know, they said for a few days, and I did this to the other one, so I want to make sure to do exactly the same thing to all these injectors so I could get right pressure and all that. And soak them with diesel for 2 days, actually more contaminant coming out of them. When I lifted this one, I saw some streak of brown stuff. Torque them again to 22 foot-pound. And I'll go and test this one. I tested this one and it was popping at 210 bars, so I need to increase the amount of shims. Be careful when you use the socket, don't damage the tip. It's hard, but if you hit it accidentally with a force that you don't mean to, you may damage it. Okay, these two extra shims. I'm going to put the thin shims first. Make sure they seated correctly. Then put the larger shim on top, seated correctly. I'll go try it again. It was popping little bit less than 230 bars. I'm going to add one of the thin shims and see what kind of effect that has on this injector. I'll put the very thin one all the way down. Let me blow it with air. The last shim did it. Both of these now set at 240 bar. I will continue the process with these four. I'm covering this injector with rag so the diesel doesn't shoot everywhere. It has good battering. And you want to make sure to hear this sound when the injector pop. Also be careful, don't put your hand or fingers anywhere near this, because this will open at 3500 psi and it will inject into your skin. If you're going to hold the rag, make sure you hold it behind the nozzle so you don't hurt yourself. Before I go inside, I want to show you the battering one more time. I'm probably gonna get diesel on my camera, but I want to show you what you should be looking for. I was able to get all 6 injectors to bob at 240 bars. I had to use different shims on each one of these injectors. One of them, I had to use 3 of the thicker shim, the 0.102 millimeter, and I had to sand one of the shim. I removed just a little bit material until I got the injector to bob at 240 bar. I used this 2000 grit sandpaper and it worked out great. My homemade tool worked out great. It didn't leak and I was able to test these many times until I got them right. The new washer kit that I bought off eBay, it also worked out great. The brass washer fits this injector perfectly. And this kit includes the return line, washers, and the plastic seals. They go around the nuts that hold this in place to prevent contaminant from getting inside. And this is the part number of that kit. And now I'm ready to take these injectors, install them and try them out. I am ready to install these injectors. I am going to apply a little bit of grease over here to keep holding this washer in place. So when I insert it in the engine, it doesn't fall. I'm using a clean and a new grease. I'm also going to apply a little bit of grease over here. And the holding nut go in. Originally, they used to have plastic seal on the top of this nut. It has a groove to prevent anything from getting inside. The new kit, it comes with the rubber type of material. It should be fine. I'm using this rubber just to protect the nozzle of the injector. I cleaned everything again, blew it with air, and I'm ready to install these injectors. All the injectors in, I lubricated the thread of everything. I tie this a 24 millimeter head retaining nut to 44 foot-pound. I tied the return line 10 millimeter head to 6 foot-pound, and this one I just tied it with my hand. And I'm done with the injector. I'm going to proceed with the rest of this engine.